Hello everybody, my name is Chase, and today I'm going to be talking to you about something that is major and happening right now in the United States regarding LGBT individuals and employment rights. So this is something that is not being talked about enough, and I think that as people on the internet and understanding the people that are in power right now in the United States, it's super important to know what's going on and to know what the rights are and to know what the rights are going to be, because things change all the time. Just to give you a summary, the Supreme Court is about to review 3 cases of employment discrimination against LGBT individuals, and they're going to decide if gender identity, transgender status, and sexual orientation are actually applicable in these discrimination cases. So if you don't know what the Supreme Court is, it's the highest court in the United States, and not every single trial that you see will go through the Supreme Court. It's usually federal cases or states, like multiple state cases, and they usually need to be approved, and they're usually like a big deal. So that's just to give you a little example, like it's not just like random little ones here and there. They're big deal cases that go to the Supreme Court. So the Supreme Court is making this decision if gender identity, transgender status, and sexual orientation are applicable in these 3 cases. All right, and the 3 cases here I'm talking about, 2 of them are gay related and 1 of them is trans related. If the Supreme Court rules against being able to apply trans status, gender identity, and sexual orientation in these cases, this could mean a lot of bad things for the trans community, and something that we need to talk about and we need to understand. So now I'm sure you're saying, but Chase, it's like 2019. We had Obama. Like, aren't trans people protected? Hello? Listen, I agree with you, but someone else is in power right now and really doesn't like trans people. So there's this thing called the Civil Rights Act of 1964. It is a landmark legislation that prohibits discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, and national origin. This act also granted complete equal access to schools, employment, and public spaces. Within this act, there's something called Title VII. Now, I feel like a lot of people have kind of heard about Title VII, so let me just give you a brief explanation of what it is. So under the Civil Rights Act of 1964, Title VII prohibits employment discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, and national origin. So the argument that's happening right now is that they're saying that gender identity, trans status, and sexual orientation aren't actually stated in Title VII. That Title VII really only talks about sex discrimination. Here's the thing though, let me tell you that these 3 categories, gender identity, trans status, and sexual orientation, are actually under the definition of what sex is. If you go to the website, it is literally there. It literally says gender identity, transgender status, and sexual orientation. The issue right now is that some people are arguing to go back to the old definition of sex and not to talk about gender identity or trans people or sexual orientation. They want to go back and read the text and interpret the text as it was written in 1964. Instead of accounting for like 40 plus years of like activism and evolution and like language changes and acceptance, let's all disregard that and just go back to the original text. The Trump administration wants to go back to the old definition of what sex is. And the thing is that in the past, this administration has said that they're very pro-LGBT.
I will do everything in my power to protect our LGBTQ citizens.
How can you be pro-LGBT and say that you are, all right, and then do something like this, which has literal malicious intent? It's targeting trans people and people in the LGBT community. It's there. So it wasn't always this way, okay? Things changed when this new administration came in, so I want to give you a little timeline of what has happened and how the definition of sex started to include gender identity and sexual orientation. So when it was written, sex meant male and female. All right, this is 1964. In 2012, the Equal Employment Opportunity Committee ruled that gender identity does belong under Title VII and is protected under Title VII. In 2014, the Attorney General from the Department of Justice in the United States took a similar stance and said, yes, absolutely, gender identity, trans status, sexual orientation, this is protected under Title VII. Now, obviously, I'm telling you these dates, you can remember this is the time of Obama. Obama's not perfect, however, when we're talking about rights like this, there's some good things that have come out of it. In 2017, under the Trump administration, the new Attorney General issued a text. And in this text, they are officially withdrawing from the position from the 2014 decision to protect gender identity and sexual orientation under Title VII. Now let me just tell you about this 2014 text because I read it all. It's so cocky. No joke, there's a sentence in there that says, Title VII does not prohibit discrimination based on gender identity, per se. Listen, I know what per se means, but the way that it was written in this article, I was like, It just read like a very, very condescending article, because then he goes on to say this is law and not policy. Like very, very like angry almost at this. Listen man, times have changed, okay? The Equal Employment Opportunity Committee, which is literally appointed by the United States government and it is a huge influence in law and policy, and they have literally added gender identity and sexual orientation to the definition of sex, and yet you're gonna disregard it. Why is the new administration on a warpath to destroy all of the rights that trans people have acquired over the last years? First, there was protection for trans kids in school that was taken away. Then of course we're talking about bathroom bills. Then the military ban that literally just happened about a month ago.
The High Court is allowing President Trump's ban on transgender service members to serve in the military.
If you are trans, you're literally not allowed to serve in the military. Like, we went through this like years ago. Don't Ask, Don't Tell was repealed. Trans people were allowed.
We're ending the ban on transgender Americans in the United States military.
But like, why is this going backwards? Another big concern is healthcare. There's huge concerns right now, and this issue is way bigger than I could explain in this video, so I'm actually working on another video, so please stay tuned for that. And now we're talking about employment rights. And like I said in the beginning of this video, this could end pretty badly if the Supreme Court decides, hey, gender identity doesn't actually fit under the definition of sex, so we're gonna try this case as it's not related to gender identity. Everything was so hopeful in the United States, and I feel like the US took 50 steps forward with all of these new legislations that were happening. Like I said, not everything was perfect. However, under this new administration, it's almost like the US has now taken 4,000 steps back. And the amount of work it will take to get back to that place is so hard and long. However, we can't give up. We need to fight. We need to keep doing this. So what does this even mean for us? Well, people could potentially be losing their jobs. If gender identity and, let's say, trans people are no longer protected under Title VII, then you are literally opening the door for discrimination to happen against trans people. And of course, other LGBT people in the community, but I'm just gonna focus on trans people right now. This decision in court will literally legally decide if it is legally okay to discriminate against a trans person. I know it sounds like I'm being dramatic and maybe I'm extending this way farther than it needs to be, but we need to talk about what's happening, and we need to talk about what may happen and the consequences that will happen if that does. One of the cases is a trans woman who worked at a funeral home announced that she was going to be transitioning. The boss, the funeral home director, fired her because he said that he didn't accept trans people. A trans woman was literally fired for being trans from somebody who's extremely transphobic. Like, that literally happened, and now it's in the court's hands to decide, is this actually discrimination? This is extremely dangerous and could absolutely harm the community. It could harm trans women, especially trans women of color. Like, we need to take a stance. We need to talk about this. We need to open up the conversation. When you allow somebody to be othered and marginalized even further, you're allowing for more discrimination to happen. You see the person as less than you, and they're inferior to you, and you're superior to them. This feeds into the harassment that the trans community goes through every single day. It feeds into trans people feeling outcasted. It feeds into isolation. And this ends up leading to violence. I'm so tired of things like this happening. I do not want us to lose more people in this community. Laws like this allow people who hate to actually act on their hate. And I'm not being dramatic, this has happened before. Maybe not to the trans community, maybe to other communities, but it is important that we talk about. If anyone has any information about this or wants to talk about it, let's put it in the comments below. Let's talk about this. Let's have a conversation. Let's support each other. And for people who aren't trans and who aren't in the LGBT community, this is the time for you to stand up for us. We need people on our side more than ever right now. Let me tell you that I'm actually really sick of saying more than ever we need to stick together. Like, we absolutely do, but the fact that I have to keep saying that and we as a community have to keep saying that because things keep happening and things are bad and things get worse, like, it is draining. But these laws will hurt people in the community, in the LGBT community, and this opens the door to way more discrimination that could happen, other things that could be misinterpreted. And let's just go back to the old definition in 1964, which, you know, was such a great time for everyone. So let's stand up for ourselves, stand up for people who are marginalized, show your support, and let's be there for each other. Thank you for watching this video. Below, I will be putting links and phone numbers of hotlines that people can contact to get support if they're feeling not good about what's happening right now. And let's just stick together, and let's absolutely hope that the Supreme Court makes the right decision and actually goes with what the Equal Employment Opportunity Committee has stated, that gender identity, transgender status, and sexual orientation are protected under the sex discrimination under Title VII. All right, have a great day. I will see you later. Bye.